Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for listening to our content, and please like and subscribe. Hey guys, so we have got lots of questions about the cool swag and merch. And for a limited time, you can get on our website, pureathleteinc.com, and you can order all sorts of different stuff. We're gonna have youth sizes, girls, guys, all that stuff, hoodies, some hats. So take advantage of that. We thank you for the support and a lot of great stuff to come. Back to Pure Athlete, and guys, what a great time we just spent with Clark Kellogg, man. I mean, from the stories of back in the days he played, but I love more of talking about his parents, the way they raised him, and then how he transitioned into his kids, and even talked a little bit of regret that he had with his kids. I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and he's got 3 kids that all played D1 sports, so he knows a little bit about the journey.
Yeah.
and shared authentically about that, as you just said, and of course he knows about the journey because he was an unbelievable basketball player, 2nd or 3rd best in the country when he came out.
Well, and he's also a very successful media personality, but he, Brett, you asked him about kind of one of our pillars in character, and he really did a great job explaining kind of where he thinks that comes from in a person and comes from and how it really affected him. And he talked about his faith, and he's a great role model. He's a great role model to be in front of so many people every weekend talking about college basketball. But gosh, we just very blessed to have him on the show.
Yep.
Yeah, it was cool. Hope you enjoy it. Before we get to the podcast, if you have middle school or high school kids that play sports and you don't want to fundraise like me, we got you covered. My buddy Chris Carneal owns Booster. Chris?
We help schools and sports teams raise funds in a super fun and engaging way. In fact, the last 22 years, we've raised $750 million, and we can't wait to help you. Choose booster.com.
Welcome back to Pure Athlete. I'm Jeff, along with the 2 old guys here, Britt and Brad. And
I always have to say it.
Yep, got to say it every time. But I'm excited today, being a huge college basketball guy that I am. Our guest today, born in Cleveland, played at the Ohio State, which I don't mind for basketball, football not so much, but that's fine. I can pull for him. Was drafted by the Pacers in the 1st round, and more importantly, guys, a great ambassador for the great sport of basketball. Clark Kellogg, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Jeff, Brad, great to be with you, and always fun to talk hoops and life. So let's get after it.
Awesome, man. Well, we want to talk about your youth journey, but we want to ask you a couple questions and work backwards a little bit today. And more than anything, just the state of college basketball right now. We had Reese Davis on, who mentioned a little bit with basketball, a lot with football. What is your kind of feeling on the state of college basketball?
Well, you know what? The game between the lines is really good. I mean, teams are older and better. I mean, whatever you feel about NIL and the transfer portal is your opinion. But I think the game between the lines is really good. Some rule changes over the last several years have helped. I think we've gotten rid of flopping. I think the officials are doing a really good job across the country by and large. Players obviously are competing at a high level, but off the court, obviously, there's seismic change that we're experiencing. I think NIL and the transfer portal, in theory and in intention, are the right things in empowering student athletes, the opportunity to move if, in fact, it's not fitting where you are. Every other student has that freedom of movement. You just don't hear a lot about it. NIL, long overdue. Kids never should have been penalized for being on scholarship, and that's basically what not allowing NIL to take place was. I was a highly recruited player back in 1979, went the proper channels to actually get a property and casualty insurance license because a mentor of mine, who was an Ohio State graduate and still is a dear friend after 40 plus years, talked about the value of being able to leverage your name recognition in business at a place like Ohio State. And I went about it in all of the right ways and got shut down by the NCAA back in 1980 because it was deemed it would be an unfair advantage if, in fact, Ohio State alums wanted to engage me in perhaps buying property and casualty insurance. So I experienced it firsthand and have always been opposed to not having that ability to do what other students would be able to do. But the game itself is in pretty good shape. But off the court, significant changes happening in college athletics, and how we reshape that model is going to be really important for what we see going forward.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that because what happens there has a trickle-down effect to high school kids.
Yeah, that's right. No question. It's all tied together. The college guys want to be pros. The high school guys want to be and gals want to be in college. The middle schoolers and youth sports participants want to be high school stars. I mean, yeah, it's all a trickle-down effect. So what we model and what we present at the higher levels does have an impact on what young folks start to think about being and doing in their respective sports.
Clark, do you think, I mean, I've talked about this on the show a little bit, but I don't have the knowledge that you have, but do you think really today it's harder to get a D1 scholarship out of high school than it used to be?
I think, yeah, when you think about basketball specifically, I'm not as connected to the world of football and baseball and volleyball and the other sports. I mean, I enjoy them, but I know basketball pretty intimately. And I do think there's a bit of a squeeze on Division I basketball scholarships, maybe more for the guys than the girls, than the ladies, because you do have the ability at the higher levels of Division I and even the middle levels of Division I to get older and better quicker, as opposed to going with a 2 or 3 star recruit that you might in the past give a shot to, looking at intangibles and what he might become. So, yeah, I do think there's a bit of a squeeze on Division I scholarships, particularly in men's basketball, which is what I'm closest to.
Clark, we're just a few weeks away, or not. I mean, March Madness is upon us, just about upon us, and you're going to be all over the place with that, and we can't wait to watch as always. And we're in the place where the talk's starting to happen about expanding the tournament. Love to know your take and your thoughts on that.
Well, I was adamantly opposed. Just as much as I never thought I would see a 16 beat a 1. I mean, I was anchored in that space pretty strong until we had it happen twice in the last 5 years, a 16 knocking off a 1. And I was opposed. I mean, I thought the expansion in 2011 made sense when we created the first 4. And it's tied to the math of how many Division I teams are there, what percentage of teams in Division I participate or have the opportunity to play in championships. At least that's how it was explained to me. And before the expansion in 2011, men's basketball, and I'm not sure if it was women's as well, but I would think it would be the same case, was sub 20% of teams being qualifying for the national championship. It was probably 18, 19%. When you expanded to the additional 4, it took it over 20%, which was comparable to what you had in the other sports. And so it looks the same now as we've expanded the number of current and potential Division I teams. I think we've got 11 teams in transition of some sort to become Division I. I think we're at 352, and it will be 363 at some point. So if you add another 4, 8 teams, whatever the number might be, then you stay at that 20 to 22, 23% of teams qualifying for a chance to qualifying for the tournament. So that I've warmed to it, but I said it on the air. I think it was this weekend. I'm kind of a crock pot in how I'm getting warmed up to this thing. It's not a microwave thing, but I do kind of understand it. So I know change is inevitable, and I don't ever want to resist change just for the sake of resisting it. So it makes some sense, although it's pretty special the where it is in terms of the numbers. So I'm warming to the idea, and it sounds like we're headed towards that reality.
Yeah, I think the thing you worry about too, right, is getting it watered down, and all of a sudden you got teams beating each other.
Great call, Jeff.
I've continuously said it with football. I know everybody's excited about the 12-team playoff, but I cannot wait till the 5 seed absolutely blows out the 12 seed at home. And I'm gonna be like, this is what you wanted. Now I get, you know, they're going to argue all the time, but that's what I worry about, man, is nobody wants to see a team get beat by 40.
That's a great point. And, you know, since we've gone to 68, there's very little belly aching about the teams that don't make it. I mean, it's really diminished.
Right?
There have been maybe in the 13 years since we've gone to 68, you could count on one hand where you thought somebody perhaps had a legitimate case for not being in. You've got at-large opportunities. You've got your 32 automatic qualifiers, and anybody who's playing in the conference tournament can catch lightning in a bottle and do that, which is part of the secret sauce of the tournament. So I agree. I mean, the watering down, the diminishing, the all-access part doesn't appeal to me at all. But in this case, it seems like there is some rationale behind maybe adding another two. I tell you what, the guys that do these brackets all year long, they really struggle right now trying to figure out the last handful of teams because they all look so bad.
Yeah.
You know, so again, that's a point well made and well taken, Jeff.
You know, I'm a Clemson fan, and last year a lot of people were griping that they didn't get in the tournament. I'm like, we lost 3 or 4 horrible games back in November and December. I'm like, people forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. No, the committee doesn't.
No, I know, but I'm saying the fans. Well, they beat NC State.
Right. Oh yeah.
You know,
the fans, the fans. Yeah.
Yeah, and this year, you know, they went to Carolina, beat them. So I'm like, they've made their case this year, and they're going to get in.
Oh, not only that, but
it.
they had a great non-conference season, Jeff.
Exactly.
I mean, they're a team that could very well surprise on the upside come tournament time. They really played well in the non-conference. Hit a little bit of turbulence and a speed bump during conference, and now seem to be trending in a solid positive direction. You talk about get the right matchups. They're physical. They're big. They've got guards. They've got a terrific coach. I mean, it's the kind of team that you look at that bracket when it comes out, and I'm assuming they're going to be in it. They deserve to be in it, clearly. And you look at some matchups and you say, whoa, you know, these guys could do a Miami.
Love it.
Don't get us hopes up, Clark. Don't get us hopes up.
Jeff's hoping the committee's listening to the podcast.
Hey, I don't have any bearing on the committee. I just offer what I think for those that are watching and enjoying the games as fans. And we always know what happens between the lines dictates who moves on.
Yep,
everything else is just fodder and discussion.
Yep. Hey, Clark, I misspoke a couple minutes ago. I said you're going to be all over the place, you know, in March Madness, but you're mostly in studio. And
that's correct. But I'm on that one-way box, which is all over the country and world, true. Quite honestly. Yeah. So that's how I took that, Britt.
Yeah, gotcha. But we were talking before we came on, you know, and you spend those few weeks with Mr. Barkley sitting beside you. What's that dynamic like?
Exactly what it looks like. Exactly what it looks like. Unpredictability, spontaneity, and great fun.
Yeah.
I can't describe it any better than that.
Y'all do
he's
a
one of
great
the most
job.
gracious. Yeah, thank you. And we've got a great team. I mean, Kenny and Ernie and Greg and Seth and the rest of our crew, Jay Wright joining us last year. And then even you don't see the folks behind the scenes. We've got a number of terrific producers and directors, men and women that have been doing the tournament for decades and take great pride in doing it, have great appreciation for the privilege we have to cover the men's basketball championship. And so all the folks at the NCAA, it's a great, great partnership with a lot of really outstanding folks, and it's one of the best events on the sporting calendar. I don't think
no doubt
that's open to debate as how you rank it is debatable.
But
it clearly is it's clearly one of the special events on the sports calendar, and I've been blessed to be part of it.
I was one of the old fogies that was like, I don't want the NBA guys coming in and commenting on college basketball. That's just, you know, they don't have the right to be in that space because I'm a purist. But man, I tell you, y'all pulled it off. I mean, the college basketball guys have been welcoming to those NBA guys, and they've just, I mean, y'all's chemistry is amazing, and it's just really added to the event. And so, gosh, it's.
Oh, I agree. Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that, and so do the other guys.
Yeah. Well, now we're going to switch it up a little bit, and I want to know, as a kid growing up in Cleveland, what was youth sports like for you? What sports did you play, and what was one of your best moments growing up playing?
Oh, man, that's a great question. Well, I initially was a football head. My dad was a really good athlete. He's deceased, as is my mom now. But my dad was a really good three-sport athlete. He was a police officer in Cleveland for over 40 years. So my first organized sporting events and sporting experience was with the Police Athletic League.
Wow.
They called it PAL for short, PAL. And there were countless PAL organizations all over the country in the late 60s, 70s. It was a great way to combine law enforcement and connect them to the community with youth through sports. And a lot of times with the Police Athletic League, it was police officers that were coaching the teams. Organized basketball, organized football. And my dad and his buddy coached us in Pee Wee football, and my dad coached us in Pee Wee basketball. And one of my great memories as a 9-year-old, I was tall for my age, and I was playing up, believe it or not. I was playing with the 10 and 11-year-olds. Because I had, even then, I showed the aptitude to be a little better than my age group. And I actually made 2 free throws. The only points I scored in this game in a little bandbox gym to win the game as a 9-year-old. And it still resonates with me. And that was the beginning of the love affair with hoops. Football, I liked, but you get hit a few times and don't quite know where you are when you get up, and you know it wasn't quite the same. Basketball grabbed me and has held me since then. I mean, I'll be 63 in July, so basketball grabbed me at 8 or 9 years old, and it has not let go, and I've not let go of it.
How long did you play football till? What age?
Till 10. Yeah, till 10. Yeah, till 10. Yeah, I played on a little Pee Wee team with my dad and his buddy, dear friend, that was also a police officer. I was a defensive end and a receiver. Liked it, but didn't love it. And believe it or not, guys, I was a 105-pound YMCA state champion wrestler.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I grappled for like a season and loved it. I think I just outgrew wrestling, basically. Yeah. I was kind of a beanpole and started stretching out. But
there weren't many people your size wrestling at that height.
No. But that was fun. That was fun. Taught me a lot about conditioning, and there's nobody that can help you when you're on that mat with somebody else at your weight. You got to try to figure out how to get it done in those 2-3 minute periods.
That probably helped you a little bit inside in the Big Ten, battling inside some of those wrestling moves probably helped you a little bit.
No, those didn't help me, but having some physicality and a dad who understood physicality helped me.
You know, it's funny. We talk a lot on this podcast with all the athletes we've had and to parents who are listening, how to make the best experience for their kids, you know, let them learn the most. You know, how were your mom and dad growing up for y'all? What type of coaches were they? What type of parents were they?
Well, I think you have to factor in, too, the time and the culture in the late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s as I grew up and played. It was just a lot different in terms of what avenues you had to play. Most of my development as a player was organic. It was on playgrounds with older guys. And that's a different kind of experience than where kids are with kids their own age, unless they move up or are held back. And everything organized, I think, is a little bit of a disservice to fun and development and maybe even valuing winning because, you know, going way back, and I don't want to say, but I am. Heck, I'm a baby boomer. I can't deny that. That's the reality. So as I think back to my youth, it was playgrounds and pickup games was the vast majority of my playing as a elementary school kid, as a middle school kid. Then in high school, formalized camps in the summer where my high school coach would invite me or I get invited as I showed prowess in the game. But that was more, you know, the AAU thing didn't really start to accelerate until well after I was done playing. So that's a different animal. But for me, it was organic. It was playgrounds, YMCA. And heck, I couldn't sleep the night before knowing I was going to be at the Y all day Saturday. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited about getting my ball and walking to the Y, which was probably, it seemed like it was a 2-mile walk, but it's probably less than a mile. Pick up one of my buddies on the way and then figure out how we're going to stay on the court all day. Because you got to win to do that. Or you've got to be a good enough player that the next group will pick you. So that was and that's the way. And then older guys would beat you down, but if you showed that you had ability, they would take you under their wing. Hey, young fella, you got a chance. And so it was just a totally different type of experience and a good one. My dad and mom, my dad was involved in sports, loved it. He was an accomplished high school athlete, had scholarships to college, ended up being a police officer because he had a young family early, but knew the game, loved talking to him about it. My mom was supportive. She wasn't an athlete, but she was supportive, saw that I enjoyed it, and therefore she was supportive. But me and my dad talk sports all the time, the players he played against. I mean, I had really good coaches. I was fortunate. I had good young coaches. Even my wrestling coach, Mr. Kenyon, was a well-respected guy. My middle school coaches, Mr. Conley and Mr. Junior, terrific. Mr. Burrows in elementary school. I still remember just fun experiences, good experiences in the game. And that's what's most important when you're in your formative years of playing whatever sport you choose, is to have a good experience, to enjoy the game, to get grounded in the fundamentals. And those who choose to embrace it and go after it will go to whatever level they can. I just don't think you can manufacture college level players. They either will be, I think you can, but it phases out, it fizzles out at some point. There's got to be an inherent and an intrinsic love of the game and drive that allows whatever ability you have to get optimized. And coaches and parents can help, but that's not, and now it seems like we're trying to make it happen. And you're running kids away from the game way too early. They're not having a good experience, and all the other factors. So, but mine was good. It wasn't perfect. It was not perfect, but I have fond memories of backyard basketball, playground basketball, pickup basketball at open gyms, and loved every minute and second of it.
So Clark, I'm guessing you were on that YMCA court pretty much the whole day on Saturday. You didn't sit down much.
Well, I mean, there were some days I had to watch. I wasn't winning all the time. There were some days I had to sit down and watch, no doubt.
So when you got into high school, and you just talked about, kids have to kind of embrace it on their own and go after it at some time. When did it kind of dawn on you that, hey, I can maybe play this for a long time at next level? And what did embracing it and going after it look like for you?
Yeah, well, I think I became I actually started to think about, it's a progression. It was for me anyway. When I first started playing at 9, 10 years old, I just loved being out there. I just wanted to be out there. I wanted to try different moves and shots and stuff. I just loved being out there. And then I started to show that I was better than kids my age and could hold my own with older kids. I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. And so by the time I got to middle school, 7th and 8th grade, I was able to play with the 8th graders as a 7th grader and start on that team and held my own and had some good games and production. And that's when it began to dawn on me that, one, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of reading about it, watching it, talking to my dad about it. And so I loved it. It grabbed me. And from that point on, once I got to middle school, then I saw that, I wanted to be a high school guy. I wanted to be, because my dad as a policeman would work high school games kind of as a moonlight security guy. Yeah. And he would take me to these games. And I can remember telling him, guys, I'm like in the 7th grade. And these guys out there playing varsity are in the 10th, 11th, 12th grade. I'm telling my dad, like, I can play with these dudes. That's what I'm telling him. And he's just kind of laughing at me. But I'm like, I can get out there and do this. And it still tickles me to this day to think about it. And then lo and behold, that's when and I started playing. And my dad, I said, what do I need to do? I was a bean pole. He said, you got to start lifting weights. He got me a raggedy old weight set and he threw it in my garage. Him and my uncle, I'd be doing weight. And I'm trying to get better. Then I get to high school. I go to a camp. Austin Carr, one of the great players in the history of college basketball, is playing with the Cleveland Cavaliers, has a camp in Cleveland, an overnight camp. It's like 25 minutes, 30 minutes from my house, but I think I went out of the country to go there. To spend the night for 4 days. And then I get picked. I'm an 8th grader getting ready to start 9th grade. I get picked to play in the All-Star game with the older guys. And the whole camp, the younger guys are all excited because I'm one of them, but I'm playing with the. And then that ignited a flame. And, man, I said, shoot, I'm going after this thing. And from that point on, I was like, I think I can get to the NBA. I think I got a chance. Then started playing pickup games when I was in high school with some of the Cavaliers. And that's when it really became clear. I mean, they were going 60%, but they took a liking to me. Austin Carr, the late Terry Furlow, Jim Jones, Jim Brewer, guys that were playing Campy Russell, guys that were playing for the Cavs. And so I would see them during the summer as I was in high school. And that's when it really became like, this could happen if you stay the course. And that's so cool. There you go.
What about your size? Were you always bigger? Did you hit a huge growth spurt at some point?
No, my biggest spurt was probably, Jeff, from 8th grade to 9th grade. That summer, I went from probably 6 foot to 6'3". That's a pretty good jump in a 3 or 4 month period. But we were always in the middle of the class photo in school. All the Kellogg kids were in the back middle. So we were always, because my dad was 6'4", his dad was like 6'6". My mom was 5'10"-ish, 5'11". So we were all pretty tall. My sisters are all in that 5'10", 5'11" range. And my younger brother and I ended up being 6'7", 6'8". So, yeah, I was always a little longer than kids my age. Yeah.
So you played at St. Joseph High School, which has a great athletic tradition. And tell me if I'm correct about this, but you lost in the state championship game, but you had a pretty good game. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the memory is still bittersweet. It was the first time our school, St. Joseph High School, was an all-boys Catholic school, then got to the state finals in basketball. I think we might have gotten to the Final Four, but I can't recall. But it was certainly the first time we got to the championship game. The school came online. I think our first graduating class was 50 or 54. So it was 79 that we got to the state championship game, and just didn't have a good enough game against the opponent we played, Columbus East. The late Granville Waiters, who was a teammate of mine with the Pacers and the Buckeyes. And my roommate in college, he died a couple years ago, complications of COVID. But his team, his high school team, Columbus East, which has an unbelievable basketball tradition, going back to the 60s and 70s, beat us in the finals. And I ended up scoring a state record, 51 points in that game, in the championship game, which still stands just because there's only one game a year where somebody can get a state championship game record. You have to be in the game to do it. So it still stands. And it was just too little too late for us. So it was a great accomplishment, a great memory, other than the fact that we came up short. But I tell people all the time, and I try to tell young folks, you can be a champion in how you play and how you live, even if you don't get the trophies and the awards. And I feel that way strongly. I mean, I played as hard as I could. We did. It just wasn't our time. And people still remember that performance, and I'm grateful for that. But you can be a champion without always getting the hardware.
Clark, I love what you just said there. One of the pillars that we've kind of established of a pure athlete is character. And you're known as being a high character guy. Where did that come from? Talk a little bit about what you would say to young people about the importance of character.
Yeah, it's essential. It's the essence of who you are. And I've been, it harkens back to how I was raised. Had all four of my grandparents through my early adult years, and they were all in Cleveland. So had a connection there with them and their work ethic and their stories and history. Obviously, my mom and dad were high on character and how they raised me and my younger siblings, my brother and three sisters. It's down to two now. But it started with that, and the teachers and coaches that I had really emphasized the importance of not only trying to be good, but doing good from the inside out. And then ultimately it really crystallized as I gave my heart and life to Christ back in 1986. And that became the foundation of all that I am and attempt to be from the inside out, rightly related to God through faith in Christ, and seeking to allow the word the Spirit of God, fellowship with like-minded believers to be what shapes who I am and how I try to bear his image in the world. Imperfect, flawed, have regrets, made mistakes, and continue to make some, but on a path where seeking to try to do what's right and just and fair in every capacity of my existence, as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, as a public-facing commentator, as a friend to friends. In every dimension of the life that God gives me, I desire to please and honor him and glorify who he is in me. And I try to do that by being trustworthy, consistent, faithful, authentic, caring. The fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The self-control one is the greatest work in progress. But that's what drives me. And again, I hearken back to before I became a Christ follower. There was an anchoring and a foundation at our home that had some Judeo-Christian values tied to it. Do right by people, with people. Don't ever think of yourself more highly than you ought. Those kind of things. So I attribute a lot of it to how I was raised and the people that were around me and the circles of my relationships. Obviously, the nuclear family, then the extended family, and then the community and coaches and the like.
That's awesome.
That's a tough. We might just end it there because that's just a great answer.
You got 3 believers here too, so I appreciate you speaking about your faith. And but I would be saying, I know you've had an unbelievable career, but you had 3 kids that had quite careers too. Yeah. So what was that like for you, coaching and being there for your kids? How was that dynamic?
Well, I'm gonna start with the regrets I have in that space. I mean, my wife was a really good high school athlete, loves sports, loves games. It's a really good fit, her and I, in that regard. We like a lot of the same stuff, and she's extremely competitive. So our kids got it from both sides in that way. But we also tried to be realistic, and we tried to let our kids own their development in age-appropriate manners. There are certain times when you have to be more hands-on when your kids are younger, because they don't know what's best, and you've got to teach them. I wish I would have been more engaged with my middle boy, with our middle child, oldest boy, in his sports journey, because I think that would have helped him more in terms of, I would have been a little more hands-off. I was so afraid, guys, of being that overbearing parent. I just defaulted. I really didn't want to go down that road. I wanted to encourage faith, attitude, and effort and fundamentals in the games that our kids chose to play. That's what I really emphasized. And I wanted them to own it. And I think in their early years, I probably stayed too far back, particularly with my middle child, our oldest boy. I probably should have been more engaged there. But by and large, each of our kids all were Division I scholarship athletes. Our youngest son played basketball at Ohio University, had a really great career there, nice tournament run. Then went on and played internationally for 6 years before COVID kind of prematurely ended his playing career. I think he would have continued to play had COVID not interrupted that. And he's since stayed in the game as a video coordinator with the Milwaukee Bucks and now on staff with Ohio State. Our daughter had a really good volleyball career at Georgia Tech. Got a degree there. And then our oldest boy actually got a scholarship to play hoops at Providence, transferred to OU to play with his brother, and then gave up basketball completely after his sophomore year. And he's an anesthesiologist now. He's putting people to sleep and waking them up, and doing yeoman's work in a highly stressful, demanding, rewarding career. And extremely proud of all of them. But we tried to emphasize what I just talked about: fundamentals, effort, and attitude with all of our kids. Those were kind of the pillar hallmarks. And then we were extremely supportive. Obviously, I couldn't be there all the time, but I was there when I could be, and made every effort. And my wife was a tremendous supporter of all of them, and in presence and in voice, more so than me at the game. But I think we did a reasonably good job in how we approached it with our kids who had athletic ability, and we tried to be fair. But the other thing I'll say is that the last name of an accomplished parent that still is a public figure cuts both ways. There are some people that would love to bring your kids down because of that. There are other folks that want to kiss their ring and overinflate them. And then there's the vast majority of folks who try to accept you for who you are and what you are. So that's part of the responsibility and part of the weight that comes with where their dad has been and who he's been and them navigating their own space. And we tried to be sensitive and fair and genuine in that with them and with the public.
So how was your recruiting journey different than your three kids' recruiting journey? And then how involved were you in kind of that whole process with them?
Yeah, I was considered one of the top 1, 2, or 3 players in the country coming out of high school in 1979. Our kids were all highly touted. I think our daughter was maybe in the top 25 on some recruiting lists, so she was elite. Nick, not so much because he was our youngest who played at OU. He was a really good soccer player and played soccer through his junior year in high school. And I say to this day, had we lived in Europe, he probably would have chosen soccer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because of just the cachet that it carries in a different part of the world. But he was really good in both and chose basketball. And then Alex, our oldest boy, is the tallest of the three and actually wishes he would have tried football as opposed to hoops. But anyway, so they were all different. And again, I tried to offer counsel, but I really did want them to make the choice. Rosie and I both would kind of give guidance. And one of the exercises that really helped, I think, all of them was that we asked them to write down what's important to you in where you go to school. And then if you write that down and say this is what you want, then you have to be true to looking at that realistically. I mean, if you say you don't want to go far away from home and you're trying to wait for some big time school to make you an offer that's far away from home, that doesn't wash with what you just said. So we had them do that, and each of them ended up landing, I think, in a place they thought would work for them, and it worked out. But yeah, we tried to be, again, age appropriate engagement, leverage our experience, my experience specifically, and having gone through it to some degree. Rosie knowing athletics and athletic competition. And so, yeah, we just tried to give them the tools they needed to make a decision that they would own and know they would have to live with.
Clark, I'm curious, as you look back on, sports parenting with your three kids, and a lot of our audience are in that journey right now. What was the most challenging part for you and your wife? And part two of this question, what do you look back on and feel great about that you did?
The most challenging thing was the public-facing notoriety that is a shadow for my entire family, not just our kids. It's a shadow for my wife too. So that navigating that is probably the greatest challenge that I would say. I would highlight that as probably the greatest challenge. Then for me personally, just having a tendency to want to be hands off when, just judging when, and I wish I would have done more in a hands-on manner earlier. So those would be my two most challenging components. What we did well is that we supported our kids unconditionally in their journey. Even when Alex decided he was stepping away from basketball, he had the freedom to tell us that without any reservation. When he made that, I don't think it was a burden for him internally, but he knew and felt good enough about how we had approached it to know that wasn't going to be anything that was going to affect us other than we desired what he desired more than anything else. There was no connection to our feelings about him based on him playing or not playing. So I think we established an unconditional level of love and support for them in their chosen games, and that we're going to be there. We're going to be honest, but we're going to be your biggest fans. And I think that was, and we were present. You know, we made an effort to, and their mom, Rosie, was, yeah, she was there probably 90% of the time, 85 to 95% of 100% of the time. She was there, and they knew she was there, and that's a big deal. And being there, you know, just being there and being able to talk it out. And you know, the other thing that we did really well, and we still do, we laugh every day. Every day. Rosie and I laugh. The kids and Rosie, the kids with each other, we laugh every day. Every day. There's not a day that goes by that something triggers, that something doesn't trigger just great laughter.
I love
Whether
that.
it's in the group, in the Family Matter group chat.
Yeah.
We're laughing every day.
Yeah.
Even in the hard days. Yeah. Yeah. So that was an environment that Rosie really cultivated, and our kids took it. They all have pretty good personalities. They're all pretty funny. And so, yeah, but that's something that I take great satisfaction and joy in, is that
I love that. Every year
we're a laughing family. Yeah, we're a laughing family.
Yeah, every year I make my two oldest kids, because they're the only understand it, but watch during Jimmy V week, man, watch his speech, because I love that speech.
Wow.
One of my favorite ever,
that's
man.
a great one. Yeah, it's one of the iconic speeches. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, it's a good. How old are your boys, Jeff? How old are your kids?
I got
you said
a
your
girl
boys, right?
who's 10, boy who's 8, girl who's 5, and boy who's 3.
Oh, you got 2 and 2.
Yep.
Yeah, and you got all the cycles covered, man. You're busy.
So we're all in it. But finishing up, a few more questions for you. I got a few fun ones for you. Who is the best player you played against in the Big Ten?
Oh, wow. Man. Ooh, Kevin McHale was at Minnesota my freshman year. I'll tell you, Mike McGee was crazy as a scorer at Michigan.
Yeah.
And he had a good career in the NBA. There were so many good guys playing. Joe Barry Carroll was at Purdue my freshman year. And then I played with 2 NBA guys, and Herb Williams and Kelvin Ramsey. Man, Isaiah Thomas was at Indiana. Woody, Mike, man. But for me personally, in terms of dealing with, wow, that's a tough one, Jeff. That's a tough one, man. And nobody's asked me that. They typically ask me that about the NBA. So I hadn't thought about it until you broached it on the college level. So I'll have to circle back on that one, man.
Who did you want to beat the most in college? What team? Was it Michigan or was it
Indiana? No, it was Indiana.
Because of Bobby Knight?
Because Bob Knight was the head coach there. He was an Ohio State guy. He was a great coach, obviously. And he rested in peace. And they were good. I mean, they were always championship contenders. So that was probably – I mean, I felt that rivalry a little more as a basketball guy than the Michigan one.
Yeah.
Personally. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was – and I think some basketball guys from our side would maybe say that too, because of Bobby's presence there, Coach Knight's presence, and how good they typically were. I mean, they were always in the hunt. So, but Indiana was the team that it seemed the energy in the buildings took another level up whenever we played, whether it was there or at our place.
You knew it was a special game, man. Those are fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, you knew the temperature turned up.
Yep.
It turned up just a bit, and those are fun to be part of.
We always talk to coaches, too, on here. What make great coaches? Who is your favorite coach you ever played for, and why?
Probably my high school coach, Bob Straub. He's since deceased, too. He rests in peace, but I enjoyed him because he was so different when he wasn't coach. You know, I got a chance. He was able to attend a couple of high school all-star games with me after my senior year. And I actually went to a couple of basketball camps with him. And he was the life of the party at these places. And he was such a meticulous kind of drill sergeant with us. But I got a chance to see the other side, and it just floored me. I mean, it just was so cool to see that. And then obviously we had great success. We had really good success in high school. I appreciated my coach, Elder Miller. We had some run-ins early because I thought I was better than I was as a freshman. And he was trying to get me better in the right way. So that's typical youth versus adult authority and teaching, but I appreciated what he did. Then Jack McKinney was my rookie coach with the Pacers. He's since deceased too, but he was just such a nice man and a good coach. You could tell he had a bad bike accident before I became a Pacer, and it affected him a bit. But you could still see that he was not only a really good man, but he was a really good coach. He knew the game, and so. But yeah, I've been fortunate. I've had. But I probably would lean, if you just made me pick one, I would probably go back to my high school coach, although I love my middle school coach too, Mr. Junior. He was a really good player and a really good guy and stuff. Yeah, so I've been fortunate. I've had good coaches.
Clark, you had you had an unbelievable rookie season in the league, and I know your career got cut short because of bad knees. Mm-hmm. What do you think about? I don't know if you still follow the NBA closely, but what are your thoughts about the NBA of your time versus the NBA today? And then what do you think about that All-Star game?
Well, the All-Star game is not a game. I mean, I haven't been able to watch it for 15 years probably. I mean, it's just I wish they would just make it a regular game, and it would be much more entertaining if they could. But I understand. I mean, entertainment, and I understand. I don't like it. I don't endorse it, but I understand. The game there were only 23 teams in the league in the early 80s when I got drafted. So that obviously squeezes what the game is in terms of the number of players that are on the league. So there were only 6 or 8 teams when the league first started back in the 46, I think was our first year. And so, so it's changed. I mean, it's evolved. I love the skill level of the players now. Obviously, the shooting is ridiculous. Steph is unbelievable in what he's done career-wise and how he's impacted the game. The three-point shot is probably the biggest change in the game, in addition to the overall athleticism of every player in the league now. I mean, 7-footers that are taking it rack to rack, shooting threes. I mean, that's just like video game stuff. And I was considered a really unique guy back in 1982 because I was 6'8", 225, could rebound with big guys and could handle the ball. But shoot, there are 14 to a dozen of those guys now. So it's different. Physicality. Just a different time. And I try not to get too hung up on comparing eras. It was different. Game was more physical. I think players just knew how to play more then. They understood how to play because there was typically a little more movement, but they're still moving. A lot of pick and roll, isolation stuff now where you have more 4 or 5 person movement, spacing, that kind of stuff. But the game really is still, it's 2 rings, a ball, and 10 people. I mean, so there's still a lot of elements that haven't changed. The shooting, athleticism probably are the 2, especially the three-point shot and the overall athleticism and size of players now. Yeah.
I want to get this in before Jeff finishes up, but are there any pairs of Special Ks in your closet still that you got?
No, I don't have any. Man, those shoes weren't too good. I mean, they were nice at the time, but clearly they've improved the functionality of what we wear and the usefulness of them. But yeah, there are a few posters, Converse posters in the memorabilia closet at my house, and a few things. But not much. There are a few things that let people know I was out there at one time. Yeah.
Well, Clark, final question for you, man, and we'll let you go. Thank you. But what's your last piece of advice to the parents out there watching, whether it's something that you learned from your mom and dad, something you did with your kids, but I just think something that can enhance their kids' youth sports experience?
Wow. Man, I think the biggest thing is to really emphasize what I talked about earlier, the fundamentals and the experience, and to do it age appropriately, right? When kids are first starting out, it should be about fun and learning the basics in the game that they're playing and having a good experience in it. I think that should be the priority. Yeah, you want to win, but I think that shouldn't be the priority. That should be somewhere on the secondary page. It should be about fundamentals, fun, and a positive experience. Because if you lay that foundation, then whatever level of interest and ability a kid has in a particular sport or either any other extracurricular activity, it doesn't have to just be sports, then they'll take it and go with it with joy. There was not a time that anybody had to wake me up to go play. Never. Never. I'm 9, 10 years old getting up on my own to walk to the Y because I was so infatuated with it. Now, you've got other dynamics now, social media, so those are all things I can't even speak to. I can't speak to those with any kind of sense of authenticity. It's a different, kids are now native to these gadgets. And I don't even know what that would have done I don't know how that would have affected me. How, I was losing myself in the dream of playing and competing. I wasn't losing myself in how many likes I was going to get or that wasn't available. So I was losing myself in the joy and opportunity of playing and trying to be good, which is the case for many from my generation and before. And now there's a different dynamic. So for parents, though, it's fundamentals, it's fun, it's a positive experience. And the last thing you hope to have, and we were fortunate in that, good coaching for your kids in their sport. Now, that doesn't mean you get it. If you want to get involved, that's fine. But I think those are the things that should be emphasized primarily as kids get involved in youth sports. And then variety. If your kids show interest in different things, give them a chance to explore it, but don't force any of it. That would be the last thing I'd say. Don't make them do any of it. Gentle exposure, nudging on occasion when they're younger, but no forcing. No forcing.
It's great stuff.
Man, I can't thank you enough. I agree with everything you just said. And as a father of 4 right now, man, with my 2 oldest, they're playing sports. We're out there, but I fight that every day, man. When they come home from school, trying to get on screens doing this, I'm like, let's go throw the football. Let's go shoot hoops. It's hard, though, man.
Yes, it's a lot more of a fight, Jeff. I don't envy you in that regard because of the level of distractions. And
I do. I'm the same way you talk about the why. I tell my kids all the time, man, we used to get home on the bikes and we'd all meet at the same place. One day it was football, basketball. The next day it was baseball, soccer. We did something. Yeah. And now I think if I told my kids to get on their bike and ride 2 miles, my wife would probably be like, no chance.
No, understood the environment and times have changed. I'm grateful for the times that we grew up and how it was. And we try to navigate and help our kids navigate their reality the best way we can.
Well, we thank you for spending time with us, man. And look forward to seeing you here in a couple weeks on TV. And if you get a chance, put a good word in for my Clemson Tigers with whoever's listening.
They're gonna be one of my teams, no doubt. I've already been locked in. I've watched them a dozen times, man. I love them, and I know Brad Brownell pretty well. He's a terrific guy and great for our game. So I'll be looking at everybody and enjoying the journey.
Thank you so much, Clark.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure.
Enjoyed it, guys.
Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for checking out Pure Athlete, and subscribe to our channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you go to listen to our podcast.